The weekend's shocking events in the US confirm that the political and economic environments are intertwined in a way we haven't seen for decades across the world. There's been some time to assess the potential consequences of the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Some of the implications won't last very long. Some will be more longer lasting and have a deeper impact. I think for me, perhaps the key point is let's not treat these implications as one-off. We've had a period of political instability which has grown in scope and impact. This is the latest instalment. In fact, if we take a small step back and look at 2024 so far, this year of elections, the largest election year in history, the first half of the year seemed to deliver few surprises. Then from the middle of the year, that's changed quite a lot. Modi re-elected in India, but with a reduced majority in the French elections. Vote for National Rally surged, and Biden's recent debate performance, of course, even before this weekend's developments, had already entered political folklore. In one preview of the year, the Financial Times suggested that in the first decade of this century, governments were re-elected about 70% of the time, and in the most recent decade, that had flipped to about 30%. There also seems to be increased prevalence of, maybe we call them grey election outcomes. Modi leads a minority government now, although it seems quite stable. In France, now there's a coalition of parties which need to find some common platform in order to start governing. And in Australia, an election is due by May 2025, and the polls suggest a minority government is one of the possible outcomes. In this political environment, the economic policy context has also shifted. Governments are more involved in the economy. Government spending as a share of GDP is higher almost everywhere after the pandemic, and it's remained quite strong. The scope of climate policy has broadened and is impacting larger parts of most economies, and industrial policies which target the structure of economic activity have become more prevalent. One measure suggests globally, the number of industrial policy interventions has risen eightfold since 2017. Change obviously brings uncertainty, but we shouldn't presume that these sort of political impacts are negative. They can be. The Brexit vote in 2016 delivered a substantial change in the UK's trading relationships and patterns of economic activity that does seem to have delivered an economic cost at a macro level. But in the Philippines, Duterte delivered a build program which doubled infrastructure spending to 5% of GDP. And of course, Trump, when he was first elected in 2016, markets initially welcomed it as potentially signalling more stimulatory policy settings. In fact, really we can date this new political era, if you like, to 2016 with the Brexit referendum and Trump's election. The global economy has managed through plenty of shocks since that period and still seems to be going quite well. Governments change more often these days, and as governments are more involved in the economy, the associated policy changes are more significant. But change also brings opportunity.